Steve Young just called the 49ers out. We'll explain what he said and analyze whether he's right next on the coaches meeting. Good day. Welcome to the coaches meeting. That's the coach. I'm Grant Cohn. Title of the show, Steve Young's issue with the 49ers offense. Steve Young's my favorite football player of all time. I grew up sort of idolizing him. He was the quarterback when I was 7. And he's still the conscience of this team, which I really appreciate. He wasn't drafted to the Niners. They saved his career, and he retired a 49er, unlike Joe Montana, which is why he still is sort of like the grandfather. He's too old to be the grandfather of the team, but he's like I don't know what he is. I'm calling the conscience, but we're not going to go to him just yet. To make people wait. First, I want to hit you with a stat about Brock Purdy. So Chase Sr. pointed this out. It's on playerprofiler.com. Anyone wants to check it. Brock against man, Brock against zone this season. Here are the stats. Against zone, completion percentage 73.7, sixth best in the league. Passer rating 130.7, number 1 in the league. We know Brock shreds zone. Against man this season, completion percentage 41.1, that's 33 somehow. And then passer rating versus man 59.3, that's 32nd. So my question is, has the league found Brock's kryptonite? Is this the way to stop him, or is this a symptom of other problems on the offense?
I think a little bit of both, because I don't want it to all be on Brock, right? There's a lot of answers to this problem, right? There's not one problem, right? That's why we move forward with the injury issue of not having CMC there, and people automatically attribute to, the red zone issues or why we're not winning because we literally don't have one player. This didn't happen overnight. Right. And this didn't happen because one guy is not playing on the team. I think that one of the biggest things right now is that Brock does not have ownership of the offense. There's no buy-in from Kyle, none whatsoever. This is a scheme full of plays, and the plays get put in and we run the plays. That's this offense, right? It's not sound. It's not a living and breathing organism where it can actually contemporaneously make decisions when they see that they don't have the numbers, or when they see that the play needs to be changed, or when they see that we need to speed up the tempo, or when we see that we're in 4 minutes and we need to slow it down. All of that intelligence, right? All of that metadata is lost on this team. And I can't rightfully put it all on Brock when I know that if you have played before, right, or you coached before, you understand that the reason why the coach-player relationship is built on trust is the number one thing that's glaring you in the face, Grant, and that is you literally can do whatever you want once you get on the field. I can't tell you what to do, right? That's the thing about football that makes it great, is that there's a trust. There is, tell me what you see. How is it bared out versus what I've told you? And I don't necessarily think that conversation is happening on this team, and it's starting to show because other teams are starting to understand what this scheme is and how they can start attacking this scheme based on the certain simple things that every NFL offense has that we just don't.
So the man coverage thing is a widespread issue with the offense. Kyle Shanahan has to own some of it. He could scheme open easier throws against man-to-man coverage. Although I gotta say, after watching the film, I mean, the long throw to Cowing, the long throw to Kittle, both up the sideline. It's like, if defenses are going to take away the middle of the field because that's where Brock is great, and they're going to not play zone as much because that's where Brock will kill you, then he's going to have to make throws outside the numbers down the field. And in those two instances, Kyle schemed it open with these really incredible, like, stutter move, whatever you want to call them, but like routes that are specifically designed to beat man-to-man coverage. Kyle did his job. The receiver did his job. Brock underthrew the pass on both occasions. Either one could have been a touchdown. And I feel like against man, he's an anticipatory thrower. That's what you need against zone. But against man, I feel like arm talent's more important.
I think the situation that's happening right now is that both people are being stressed. That is Kyle and Brock, right? I feel like Kyle's offense is stressing Brock physically, where Brock can't make some of the throws that Kyle is asking him to. And I feel if you could get Kyle by himself, he feels a little bit challenged over the fact that he can't find ways how to accentuate Brock's skill set outside of zone, right? And a lot of it really isn't even have anything to do with Brock. Every quarterback that Kyle has had to do it his way, right? Because it flows through his expertise, his confidence, his subject matter expertise on exactly how the offense is supposed to be ran. We've talked about this for years, but I don't think Kyle would be able to see anything new in his offense that happened during the field and be encouraged. We've seen Kyle be angry from positive plays because the ball did not go where he thought the ball should go. And for that shows a lack of ingenuity, a lack of curiosity, professionalism, right? Where if you see something that works, that happens outside of the rules that you've put forth, that should spark your curiosity to say, I need to go find out what that is. We need to find out that wrinkle. And the only reason why I'm bringing that point up, Grant, is that that's the mode of season we're in now. All hands on deck. Every wrinkle counts. Every route that had positive traction, we need to record it, because right now, the truth is that I think you see it. We all see it. We don't have an identity.
And I think what's so interesting is, like, I feel like we've reached the limit of the Brock offense, and it's the same limit as the Jimmy offense. We've been here before. Like, you get about 25, 30 games, 35 games to look at this quarterback, and it's like, okay, he's going to dice us up in zone. We probably shouldn't play too high. He doesn't really want to throw deep that much. So why don't we play single high? Let's load the box. Let's play man coverage. Let's play inside leverage. Let's take away the in breakers. Let's really force this quarterback to beat us with a steady diet of throws outside the numbers. And Jimmy couldn't do it. Jimmy could not do it. And I think, like, I don't know that Brock can do it. That's why they drafted Trey. That's why they brought in Sam Darnold. Like, I'm not saying those guys are great, but with Sam Darnold, he literally could make those throws for touchdowns down the sideline to Jacob Cowing and George Kittle. With Brock, like, yeah, man, he's way better against zone than Darnold is. But
most people,
you could argue those two throws were his biggest there were huge missed opportunities in this game. They weren't bigger blunders than the turnovers, but they were almost as bad.
Well, I watched the film as well, and I primarily watched the offensive line, so I always get a good chance to see what's being done against us, because I watched opposing defenses against us, and sometimes I get nosy and I start peeking into the hashes and seeing what's happening outside of the trenches. And I will tell you, there were many instances where the Chiefs linebackers, whether it be Bolton, Leo Chenal, whether it be Reed, and the other safety that they had, these guys were living on the hashes. There were instances during the game where they were playing man zone and bracketing underneath and literally had their back to Brock, where their main focus wasn't even where Brock was going with the ball, but it was more important that there was absolutely no routes in the middle of the field, right? So whatever that was happening on defense is that they were funneling everything up the field, forcing Brock to make longer throws, right? Nothing easy over the middle. And really, that's another part of that we're going to have to start realizing, is that if you got an offense that's not sound, you're kind of letting the defense off the hook, right? Because now they get to play a bespoke certain way just to beat your offense. So now we don't even get to attack bad safeties or attack bad corners, right? Where we can get in positions where we can attack linebackers from a standpoint of developing the run game, right? Condensing the game, bringing the game down into the box, and then giving Brock the ownership and the opportunity to change plays. I haven't seen an audible all season. I haven't seen it. So, that speaks on Brock. That speaks on Kyle. I'll tell you.
Absolutely. So Steve Young has been watching this team, and he got a little frustrated because, after they beat Seattle to go to 3-3, they were talking like, hey, we're in first place in the NFC West. And now they're not. And Steve didn't like the whole like changing goalposts. Like, no, this is a Super Bowl or bust season. You're not going to move the goalpost halfway through and say, we're going to win the division and see what happens. He also had a lot to say about the offense. He essentially said it was easy last year. They dominated. All they had to do was run their scheme, run their plays. Nothing. Didn't have to go off script very much, and they kicked butt. And now they're not that much better than the rest of the league. Everyone studied them, and they got to Innovate was the word he used. They got to do something different. Brock has to be better. Everyone has to be better, and they have to innovate. Well, someone's in charge of that. What do you think of Steve's? I'm not going to say rant. He called it a soliloquy. I'm going to call it a soliloquy.
Yeah, he did. I believe the exact words he uses that they can't use retail offense, right? They can't go retail. And what he explained about that is that it's just the linear path of offensive football. We see the play, we put the play in, the players ran, it's successful, then we move on to the next play. That's not realistic football. And really, that's almost something that's been afforded to us due to the embarrassment of riches that we have on the offensive side of the ball, right? And then to top it all off with the offensive player of the year, you could say one would say that Kyle got a little lazy. It's easy to just call in plays and just see him work. I mean, one of the greatest things that we did last year is that we were remarkable, almost historic on first and second down, right? Almost getting first downs, clipping at +6 yards, first and second down the entire season with almost little to no injuries, major injuries to anybody on offense. I mean, that's not the average life of an NFL football team, right? You're going to have to be innovative. You're going to have to create. And also the way the creative process starts is that everybody's hands have to be in the pot. I think Kyle needs to start realizing that you can't just bark plays at Brock, right? Because we're smart enough now. We've seen this movie so many times that fans are not just going to lay everything at Brock's feet once they see him degressing, right? They need to show more. And that's what I feel like Steve Young is trying to point to, is that they need to get out of this streamlined process because, quite frankly, they can't afford it anymore.
Yeah, and I think something he said, like, I keep going back to the word innovate. They need to innovate. And I feel like what the Niners have been doing this year mentally and Kyle schematically is like, well, yeah, we're struggling a little bit. You know, red zone's a bit of an issue. Brock's numbers are down, but Christian's out. Okay? What do you expect? He's the offensive player of the year. There's going to be an impact if Christian's out, but he's coming back. Just wait for it. I'm not sure when, but he's coming back. He could be back after the bye week. It feels like the Niners are resisting, innovating, changing because Christian's coming back and he's going to save everything and he'll be fine. Like, maybe. But what's plan B?
Yeah, I agree with that. They're rolling. Something that Steve Young did that I loved is he started off the entire conversation with, if we are leading the NFC West, that is not the goal here, right? Like if this is all about saving face just to win the division, then sit back, stand pat. We'll find a way to get it done. The Rams aren't world beaters. The Cardinals are who they are, and Seattle will always have a rough game with them. If this is about
nine wins, could get that done. Nine wins, maybe could get that done.
Thank you, Grant. 9 wins could have us in the hunt. But what we're talking about is changing the entire conversation of what we are as a franchise, right? We are officially not going to win the Super Bowl, right? I think that Steve Young's conversation was leaning towards what the fans want, right? What the standard of the organization is, which is what do we have to do to start competing with the top echelon teams of the league?
Right, you're not competing with the Seahawks. The Seahawks are a team that hopes to win 9 games, go to the playoffs, and lose. That would be a great season for them. That's not what the Niners are aspiring to.
Right, and one of their biggest things is that understanding that he's one shining example of us being able to change. And I know it hurts, but he mentioned the Chiefs. He said, look, they weren't better. Like, I watched that game. This wasn't just a complete blowout, right? There were tons of opportunities for us to win this game, tons of missed opportunities.
A lot of bad football from both teams.
There was tons of bad football in that game. I think that's what hurts the most, if you're being honest about this game, is it wasn't the fact that we got the best versions of the Chiefs and we could honestly lean on the injuries of Deebo Samuel and Juwan Jennings not being there and Brandon Ayuk being lost for the season and all of those.
A couple of plays. It was a third down. It was an ass kicking.
Those excuses would have been great if we had been seeing like a really tuned up KC team, but they limped through the door. All right. Patrick Mahomes was far from perfect. You know what beat us? What beat us is the 33-yard run by Patrick Mahomes down the sideline when they found a way to get it done.
Did Travis Kelce even make the trip?
He was nowhere to be found.
Nowhere.
Right.
I mean, Kareem Hunt was nice. Kareem Hunt did a good job. Xavier Worthy, is he good? Not yet. Although he was open deep and Mahomes missed him. So, yeah, that whole outfit wasn't that great.
It wasn't. And really, it just shows that I think Steve used these words. I've used them before, but backyard football seems to be exactly what we need to be looking at coming into these games, right?
What's the Niners' best offensive play this year? I would argue it's the Brock Purdy scramble, which is not good.
Taking off, ingenuity, like breaking script, understanding that, all right, Kyle's got my ass in the ringer right now. I'm taking off. I said it many times during the live watch party where we'll get runs and then all of a sudden Kyle can't help himself. We got to get down the field. We got to catch him while we're sleeping.
But Steve said himself, like, this is not the best part of Brock's game. It's something he does well enough, but he's not Steve Young. He's someone who wants to be getting rid of the ball really quick. And it doesn't seem like, to go back to the man zone thing, that there's someone getting open super fast. It wasn't Ayuk. Maybe, I don't think it's Jennings either. Jennings can make contested catches. Clearly, when McCaffrey comes back, Purdy's numbers against man coverage will go up. But when is McCaffrey coming back? He's not going to be here forever. Kind of reminds me of, remember when we were younger and Kurt Warner was incredibly great when he had Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and Marshall Faulk.
And Naz Hakeem, those boys.
Yeah, and then Marshall Faulk faded. And then he got replaced by Mark Bulger. All of a sudden, Kurt Warner was like a backup, and he went to the Giants, and he got benched for Eli Manning. And it took him a while to get a foothold back in Arizona later on. I wonder, is Brock a little bit like that? Like a great quarterback when you have all the pieces, but when you start taking a piece away here and there, all of a sudden, there's problems.
Yeah. Kyle he calls plays like the friend who wants something to say all the time, but doesn't have anything to say. It's just like, it's like if there's a joke. So the other day I was about to say, it's like, and the whole room's looking at him like, okay, Kyle, so what do you have to say?
You have to chime in. You had to chime in every time, right?
You had to chime in, right? It's like when the run game's working, Kyle has to chime in and say, oh, no, but let's get an explosive in. Let's go 5 wide. Let's try to hurt. It's almost, I feel like he doesn't like the moment. Like the anxiety makes him want to say, we have to score as fast as possible. We got a positive play on a run game. Let's run a play action pass right now and get him reeling. Let's just get this over with. And it's like, Kyle, that's not the team you have anymore. You can't brute force it anymore, brother. You got to figure out how they play.
Joseph Ernberg says, yo, I love the content both of you guys put out. It gets me through my day every day. I believe Brock Purdy isn't even top 32, and any quarterback can do what he does here. Wow, that took a turn. Not even top 32?
That's tough.
Ooh, man. Big Tim 3 says, Grant, how do you think Brock feels about his training camp this year, and do you think it has an effect on his play this season?
I would, if Brock could tell you, because one thing Brock is not going to do is complain. I've never heard him complain ever. But one thing, if you got him behind closed doors, I definitely tell you that Brock would probably admit the fact that camp was disjointed. It's like I didn't even see my starting offense until like maybe days before the season started, and now all of a sudden you want this to work. Like, come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah, that's a good point. Sir Cash Money says, Grant, I'm going to be real with you. Oh, damn. You need to deck out your background like Coach Jesse and Ryan. You're slacking on the decor. That's true. That's true. Maybe Coach could give me some tips on the decor of what I could do. But that's why I like to come down to Levi's, because, I mean, now I'm in the stadium.
I'm going to tell you this right now. You do exclusive backgrounds, though. The post game with the field in the background, that always hits.
That's right.
That always hits.
Or the walk around after, like before the press conference, as I'm getting in the game.
The walk around. I like the deck shots too. Doing the shots on the deck.
Oh,
right?
Dude, Lombardi does little things on the field after games, which I feel like I don't think I could get away with. As soon as I did that, there'd be a rule against it. There would be a rule against that as soon as I tried.
Do it.
But I'll do it, and I'll only praise the team. This was the best loss I've ever seen. In terms of losses, this was the best one. Because then they can't get mad at me if I'm only praising them.
You know a room that I think you could utilize to do shows?
What?
The press room. They all leave. You could do it right there at the podium. And
I'd get fired.
You get fired.
I don't think I could do that. I don't think they'd let me do that. I don't know. Maybe. Now, David could do that.
Of course.
No, I don't think I could do that. That sounds, again, they would make a rule against it in 5 minutes and they'd be like, oh, you broke the rule. Yaz Williams is two of my favorites. Morning, fellas. What's
Morning.
up, Yaz?
Yaz,
Carlos Flores says, I love you. I love you too, Carlos. Okay. JT O'Sullivan. Los. I love JT O'Sullivan's videos. They're exactly what I want from a film breakdown. It's not live. It's really good production value. He's got the nice telestrator. He's got a good voice. He's smart. He's not really praising everyone. He's got his own perspective. He's kind of salty. He's not a big Kyle Shanahan guy. He praises.
You got to watch my film reviews.
And he does it from the quarterback's perspective. I love the offensive line perspective too. I mean, I'm not comparing. He does a good job. And this video is basically from Brock's perspective. What went wrong in the Niners passing game? We'll talk about what he had to say about Brock. His takeaway from the passing game is it's not necessarily just the man-to-man, because he showed the clips of Kyle scheming open, cowing down the field, and Kittle down the field against man. It's against the blitz. Like there aren't schematic answers against the blitz in this offense. Like there will be unblocked rushers coming from the right, and from JT O'Sullivan's perspective, there should be hot routes to that side. Side adjustments, whatever you want to call it. The wide receiver sees that there's unblocked guys coming from his side, get open because the quarterback needs an answer, an outlet. And there's just consistently, there aren't those outlets in the 49ers offense. Like the hot guy is on the backside. So the quarterback has to look away from the blitz and hope that he gets the ball out before he gets smacked. As an avid film watcher yourself, how do you feel about the 49ers schematic answers against pressure?
All right. Well, from the offensive line standpoint, you got to block from the inside out, right? Cut off all lanes that are quickest to the quarterback. So that's one. Two, one thing that I will say is that, again, canned, predetermined protections. And the reason why I feel like the protections in the offensive line are predetermined and already canned, meaning that they can't switch on the line, is I don't see a lot of communication before games. I mean, before plays. I can talk about specifically one play in particular, the 3rd and 1. There were two 1-yard runs by Jordan Mason back to back in the first half, and we didn't have numbers on both of those plays in the run game. We were outmatched. They had 9 guys in the box, literally 9. Right? We had 7 to block 9, and it was a play that either should have been scrapped or we should have at least flipped it. Right? And they just ran into it like a deer in the headlights, right? As far as blitzes are concerned, they catch us in blitzes. I've seen blitz plays, especially with the Chiefs. I'll keep it to the latest game we've played. But there's been pass protections where we've sent 2 guys on pulling actions to go block 1. And it's all because that protection is built into the play, right? There's no actual intelligence that actually breaks down and play and keeps an extra guy in or fans out to go block an extra guy. And a lot of that responsibility derives from the center that flows through the quarterback, and then he makes the final decision, however teams want to get it done. You don't see a lot of it on our offense, right? And these are things that, how can I say, were swept under the rug. They weren't really important at the time because we were winning, right? And how Kyle has been scheming things up, especially in the pass game, is that Kyle is all about getting the primary man open through pass. That doesn't necessarily bode well for contingencies, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd reads in order to get the ball out and to be able to help the offensive line to live the fight another day. That's why we don't have a traditional drop back game with passing the ball. We don't have the offensive lineman to be able to hold up and keep Brock upright. And then more importantly is that it would make Coach Forrester's job incredibly more arduous and Brock for them to actually start giving the responsibilities to traditional offensive linemen across the league, which is, hey man, I know you got to remember this play and you got your rules, but if shit hits the fan, we got to call a fan. We got to log off. We got to change the protection. We got to switch the slide, right? We got to change a lock defender to a pitch and hinge defender. Pitch and hinge blocker on the backside. You don't see any of that communication when you watch our film. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not happening, but I will say is that you've seen way too many picks and blitzes where they're free blitzers, right? That, for me, a free blitzer is That's a successful win from the defense, right? So there's not a lot of muddy sacks where guys are living to fight another day. You see guys just completely getting dominated. Some of these blitzes, guys are just completely out scheming the offensive line. And that speaks to coaching.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. I mean, Kyle has faced Steve Spagnuolo twice in 2024. In the first game, there were 9 unblocked rushers. In this last game, I don't know how many there were, but there were a lot. And it's like, Kyle learned nothing. You know that's the biggest issue. It wasn't beating man-to-man coverage. It was picking up the freaking blitz. And you could argue that maybe the quarterback's limitations are the biggest reason the Niners struggle against man-to-man coverage. I could be swayed to hear that argument, but picking up the blitz, that seems to me a Kyle Shanahan issue. And it seems like Steve Spagnuolo exposes it every time. And if you don't have, like, where's the screen against the blitz? There should be quick answers. Or either bring in extra blockers. They're rushing 5. You have 6 or 7. Go max protect. Or you have quick hot routes, quick screens, some answers. And it seems like this has been an issue. Everyone knows it. Kyle can't fix it or hasn't yet. That's a problem.
Well, I'll tell you this, man. I actually got a chance to watch them practice myself. And what stuck out to me right away, and I held off judgment because I had only been there a couple of days. But I can tell you this: they practice one-on-ones, they run through their offense, they practice form fitting, and they practice tandem blocking with the inside and outside zone. I have yet to see this team work on blitz pickup, 7-on-9 drill, or inside run. Never. They have not one time had a blitz pickup period during practice. Not once. Not one time have I seen the corners and the receivers go do their thing. Then we bring over the linebackers and the D linemen and we play inside run. That's a period in football where we ain't passing the ball.
Harbaugh used to do that. Harbaugh, dude, there would be so many. They would rep it with Frank Gore over and over. And I was thinking, like, how many teams in the NFL do this anymore? I think Harbaugh was kind of the last, and now you don't see it very much.
It just surprised me to be a run football team. I played for run football teams and coached one myself. Inside run and blitz pickup is just a hallmark. It's a, how can I say? It's a rite of passage for the offensive line. It really is a litmus test, and we don't ever do it.
But they're they're an outside zone team, and they're a 5 in the pattern team because they're a finesse team.
They're finesse. Yeah. They don't work on the tough stuff because they don't expect to see it. They think they're smart enough to get around it. That's
Correct.
Why.
Correct. All right. Next thing JT O'Sullivan had to say. So he had a lot of critiques for Kyle Shanahan, which is what I like about him. But he also had to point out areas where Kyle's play design worked, where the first read was open and Brock either missed the throw or went to a different read. It seemed like not a main takeaway, but a big takeaway from JT O'Sullivan in this particular game is that Brock was greedy. That there were guys open underneath, that if he were reading the play as most quarterbacks were taught, that he'd have examples of George Kittle open underneath where it should have been the first read, but he's going to the fade down the sideline, which is like, man, if Kittle isn't open, you can still go to the fade. But if you go to if you're looking deep to short on these routes, you're never going to see these open receivers in front of you. And it seems like there were a lot of examples from this game of Brock passing up open 7-yard throws to attempt a lower percentage throw. Called him greedy. What do you think of that?
I think Brock's getting mixed messages from Kyle. On one hand, Kyle draws up plays where he coaches and embeds the primary receiver to Brock, right? Where you should be able to throw to this guy at all times. But we've also seen Brock improvise and be able to get the ball out to MDM, right? Most dangerous man, closest guy to get the ball. We just need to make something happen. In those times, you've seen Kyle clearly frustrated, right? Because he doesn't understand that. And I don't believe he does. I don't think Kyle understands that, hey, sometimes it's okay to let your kid play in the paint. He doesn't know what he doesn't know. Let him do it. Let him find his way first before you start trying to streamline his process. I think Kyle is so hung tight on what he thinks good football looks like, especially when it comes to his plays, that in certain ways, Kyle can virtue signal to Brock to be able to go after explosives, right? To go after plays. I mean, one thing that I will say is that you can't tell a child to do something if that something isn't always readily available to them, right? So you can preach to Brock about hitting the underneath man and hitting the hot route, but every play doesn't have a hot route. Every play doesn't have an easy, accessible break-off play that Brock can get the ball out. Some of these plays are make it or break it. These are two-man route combinations, right? A lot of this stuff is Brock being at 5 wide, where, in my opinion, he hasn't earned that. That's too many options for him at this stage of his career, especially during certain points of the game, right? It's not as if that you can't run this stuff with Brock. I think that Brock has full control of the playbook. But does Brock have full control of the playbook and autonomy during every situation of the game, right? Are you not going to start calling in some things where it's like, okay, what do I have right now where we can still scratch the itch, we can attack these guys, but I can also put in a little bit of culpable deniability to get this kid out of a jam if he needs one. It can't always be boom or bust. And that's what I feel when I watch our offense. It's either the open man, that the ball is intended to, either gets the ball. If he doesn't, it's FUBAR, right? It's almost, in a way, dipping into the Jimmy G years, where it was, if Jimmy G can just get the ball out, we're okay, right? If he can find his first guy, we're good. But if Jimmy G has to look anywhere else other than the first man that easily can get the ball, it's a crapshoot. It's a 50-50 situation. And I feel like we're devolving into that scenario with Brock if Kyle doesn't start giving him ownership of the offense, because he's got more juice than Jimmy. He's got to let this kid go.
I don't like Brock's decision-making from against man-to-man coverage. I think against zone, he's extremely decisive. He knows where the ball should go. He can decipher the coverage. And he can throw with anticipation. He's extremely decisive. But against man, like, we see him sometimes just arbitrarily pick out a matchup he likes beforehand, or a route that he thinks should work against the particular type of man coverage. Like, he throws to Chris Conley up the sideline because it's middle of the field's closed, but like the matchup is Chris Conley against Trent McDuffie. He's never going to win that. And then when the play does play out, and the guy he's predetermined who's going to win that route isn't open, you see Brock Purdy running around, scrambling, extending plays. He seems extremely indecisive against man-to-man coverage. And maybe that's where the greediness comes in. Like, okay, I need to get the big play here. People think of me as a dink and dunk quarterback. I'm not going to get paid big money if I just check it down. Let me show that I'm a gunslinger. Let me show that I can push the ball down the field and I'm aggressive. And I think that's getting him in trouble, because he was an MVP candidate last year not playing like this.
No, I agree completely, Grant. I think that Brock knows how he's seen by the fan base and by even his colleagues, right, his teammates. And it's a human game. He does seem like he's pressing at times where you're blatantly ignoring guys on the field. And hey man, what's done in the dark is going to come to the light. Eventually, we're going to have to answer the can Brock Purdy make every throw on the field discussion, right? And I understand that it was really nice to say that when we were 100% healthy and we could literally do whatever we wanted on the field, even so much so that we run an offense that is not sound with no audibles and still made it to the Super Bowl. That should let you know how talented this team has been and how ridiculously odd that is for a team to have this much talent on offense, where you can literally not have parts of a professional offense that every team has and still find success. That doesn't make you a genius. It just makes you stupid. It finally got caught up with you. Like, that's what it is.
Okay, sleeper time. Let's see let's transition to this upcoming game against Dallas. We got all the sleeper picks are in, so we got a full poo-poo platter to choose from, a smorgasbord, poo-poo. If you were. Poo-poo. P-U-P-U. Brock Purdy, we could do rushing attempts. No rushing for Brock, but passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, completions, attempts. What do you think about Brock? He has historically diced up the Cowboys, who don't have a good defense.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 1.5. They're going to go shock and awe this game, right? I think they may try to, I don't know. Right now, I just want to win, right? This team is literally on game-to-game status with me.
Do the injuries at receiver and really to Kittle give you pause about this touchdown? Like, I feel nervous about the yards, so I'm glad you went touchdowns, but Brock's been.
It's time
He
for the
hasn't
young
been
guys to
prolific.
step up. It's time
Okay.
for the young guys to step up.
Okay. Dak
They're gonna
Prescott. Yards, touchdowns, completions, interceptions, pass attempts.
Pass attempts. You know he's going to throw 80,000 times.
80,000 times. Okay.
They always love throwing with him, man.
That's all we got for the okay. Jordan Mason, 76.5 rushing yards, a touchdown. What do you want to do? Or attempts?
He's not going to get over 17 attempts. I'll give him 76 rushing yards, though. They're going to use him the whole game.
He hasn't eclipsed 17 in 3 games. And yeah. Let's do that one then.
All right. You want to go below?
Yeah, let's do that one. I think that's a smart one. He's got a banged up shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Kittle, nothing with you. Rico Dowdle.
Who's that?
I don't have anything. Yeah, who's that? The running back for that awful team that's going to lose to the
Sounds like
Niners.
an NPC.
He's basically an NPC. CeeDee Lamb. Will he score a touchdown?
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. What did he score last week? He hasn't scored in a while. Jesus, no. The streak continues. And then a bunch of people I don't really know. Anders Carlson. Will he make 2 field goals? His name is Anders?
Anders.
Oh, Anders. Oh, I was about to say, who does that to their kid? Name him Under. Yeah, I will say.
More?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are the picks. Drink them in with your eyes, everyone. Flexing just because it's the safe move. Submitting. Download the Sleeper app yourself. Use promo code Cohn to get entered to win a signed Ricky Pearsall jersey. Ricky Pearsall is about to go for 1,800 yards this weekend. So
flex that thing.
Flex that thing. Okay. So Ryan G. Hensley, friend of the show, has his own YouTube channel and did a show yesterday and had a guest on who lives down in Arizona or was down in Arizona and ran into Brock Purdy's dad. Can you tell the story? It's very interesting.
All right. So Ryan G. Hensley of the Ryan G. Hensley, no. So Ryan had on a guest. His name escapes me right now, but just go over to Ryan G. Hensley's show. It was his last show yesterday at noon. So anyway, Ryan has a guest on who says that who's based out of Arizona and went by to see if he wanted to get a hot tub, right? And we all know that Mr. Purdy and Mrs. Purdy have a hot tub establishment where they sell these things. Anyway, he goes in, and I'm not buying it. Who's buying a hot tub in Arizona? But he's going in to go buy a hot tub, and he sees Mr. Purdy. He sits down with Mr. Purdy. They're sitting there talking, maybe, about jets, bubblers, seat capacity.
Damn glad to meet you.
Things of the like.
Yeah.
And basically, they get to talking shop. Obviously, he can't have a conversation with him without bringing up Brock. And one of the questions that he brought up to Brock is basically, hey, man, how is it? How does Brock feel about the team? How does he feel about, being coached by Kyle? And he says that he reads body language good. Mr. Purdy kind of looked away, looked up into the sky, and really took about a 5-second pause before he answered this question.
Pregnant pause.
Pause, if you will. And Mr. Purdy told this man, well, number one, Brock's not going to throw anybody under the bus, but they will say this. Out of Brock's entire career, he knows that the best asset that Brock has is his mental acuity. Brock is a very brilliant young man. And he has never been in a position where they don't understand. They have one question for Kyle. The question would be, why has Brock not been given the opportunity to call audibles? Why can Brock not change the play at the line of scrimmage if he sees that it will not work? And immediately I went off because the day before we had the 4-man front. And when we talked on the 4-man front, a question from you during the show was, why will the 49ers win the Super Bowl? Why will they win? And my answer was, they will win when Kyle gives Brock ownership of the offense.
Which is when pigs will fly.
Yes, that will never happen. Right? So we see it. Brock Purdy's family sees it, and it's something that needs to be spread. That right now, you can say whatever you want about Brock as a quarterback, but the truth of the matter is that he's not being empowered to truly do his job. And that's on Kyle. Kyle needs to let go of his etch-a-sketch offense, give it up. And I think that one of the biggest things while Kyle doesn't like giving the offense up in a certain aspect is, number one, trust, obviously, right? But because he can be challenged when it's a collaborative effort, right? You got to move over and give a little room when you give somebody else ownership. And you have to answer questions as to why are we doing this? And I don't think that Kyle has reached that junction of his career yet. And it's a shame.
Do you think Kyle Shanahan would give that type of ownership to any quarterback?
No, I believe that he gave that ownership to one quarterback. I think that he gave it to Matt Ryan, and that was after Matt Ryan was a grizzled vet who had already won an MVP himself, and that was after a full year of them struggling, going 8-8 with the same exact team the year before, and Matt Ryan had to sit Kyle down. Go.
You know why I think Kyle likes Kirk Cousins so much? Because he'll just do what Kyle says.
He'll just do it.
He'll just tell me what to do, coach. I don't need to be Peyton Manning. I don't need ownership of this offense. I'll just execute. That's what Kyle wants. You know, it's like he's holding the PlayStation controller. He wants to be able to press triangle, and he wants the quarterback to do what he wants when he wants it.
Well, you know what's emblematic of all of the quarterbacks who have had any symbolism of results is they've all owned their offense. Tom Brady owned his offense, right? Patrick Mahomes, that's his team. I know Andy Reid coaches it, but they played for Patrick Mahomes. That's the difference, right? Right now, we have a lot of guys on this team that play for Kyle Shanahan, but they don't play for Brock. And you see it on the field.
I'd have to say they play for themselves, but that's
okay.
This season. Well, we're going to talk about Kyle Shanahan's leadership next. Sir Cash Money says, I have to apologize. Coach made a good point about your unique backgrounds. I didn't realize your game. Yeah, but I could upgrade my home background, and I think I will. BLB Travel ENT says, why did it take you a year to start responding to David Troutmouth Lombardi? It's about time. QC Fernando.
I haven't heard Troutmouth in a long time.
I don't know. He made that. He took that shot at me after the Ricky Pearsall rookie minicamp, and I felt like it's been on ever since. Corey Soto says, if there's a shot firing this offseason and a choice is made somewhere, it will 100% be Purdy. Front office is not firing Kyle Shanahan, especially if Brock Purdy continues to play bad. I will say this. If they get rid of Kyle Shanahan, they still have to pay him for like 11 years. Or I don't know how long because they extended him. If they get rid of Brock, they haven't paid him yet. It's cheaper to get rid of Brock. But you have to replace him with a quarterback who's probably extremely expensive. Or draft one. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Kyle Shanahan as a leader. Some people have questioned, is he a leader of men? Is he really a head coach? And his camp's rebuttal, his supporters' rebuttal is, well, his team plays for him. What team plays harder than the 49ers? And a couple of years ago, there was that stat, like every team that faced the 49ers lost the next week. Every single team. Yeah. Because the Niners were so physical and violent, and they played harder than everyone else. And it was just win or lose, you were not going to win the next week after you played the Niners. They're not that team anymore. And effort has been an issue for this team since last season. Yeah. And, you have a lot of players in this team who've been with Kyle since the beginning. They've grown up with Kyle. They've been listening to Kyle's meetings for 8 years. Is it possible that his voice, his message is growing stale in year 8?
Well, it's not about his message. It's about the how it sticks. Anybody can talk, right? But you got to have lieutenants on your staff that actually carry out the message, right? That evangelize what you say, right? Because if I get in front of a room as a coach, which I have, and I lay out exactly what I want or exactly what I expect or what's going to happen, when I leave the room, the natural reaction of everybody in the room is going to be like, so do you believe him? Is he serious? How did you feel about that? right? And you're going to need somebody, you're going to need boots on the ground to carry out the echo of that message to say, you're damn right he was right. And now let's get out here and do exactly what he said. Let's carry this out. That was D'Amico Ryans. That was Robert Saleh. That was Chris Kubiak. Chris Kubiak with the Saints? Clay Kubiak, right?
Yeah.
That was Mike McDaniel, right? These are all of the younger guys on this staff. That was Wes Welker, right? These are the Johnny Holiday. These are the guys that understood that Kyle's message, however flawed it may be, right? It automatically needs to be followed up right away. And that's leadership, right? And I feel like there have been a lot of gaps in Kyle's message to the team, mostly because I feel like a lot of his message is, I'm always right. And that's a horrible premise to start,
because
with
over 8 years, there's going to be so many examples of him being wrong. I feel like when this team was younger, when Bosa was young and Warner was young and Kittle was young, they would look up to Kyle like,
he's a wizard.
This is the most interesting football meeting I've ever been in, and all we have to do is execute, and it's like a cheat code. He's giving us the answers to the test. This is easy. I don't think they look at him that way anymore. I mean, they're in their 30s now, a lot of them, and I bet a lot of them feel like they know what Kyle's going to say before he says it. And there's the built-in skepticism of like, dude, we've been listening to you for 8 years and executing, and it hasn't worked, and there's a lot of people that feel like your plan is flawed, and maybe privately we kind of wonder too.
They've seen it enough. And really what it is how can I put this? Like self-awareness. If you're wrong, the room feels it. And some of the best things you could ever do when you're wrong is just a cop, right? Accountability. Hey man, this one's on me. Going back to the drawing board. I'm the same guy. Nothing's changed. Just give me some time. I'll be back. But when you see the constant deflecting, and the constant lack of accountability of always it being somebody else's fault or getting a bad break, the human element takes over, and people are going to start noticing like, all right, bro, like not for nothing, you are the head coach. Like, what is it always going to be on us? I mean, think about it. If Kyle is Kyle's the head coach. So if this team is losing right now, you are the direct reason why they're losing. But how many times has this defense had to bail out this team? Right? There's always these individual factions of the team that bail out the entire team, right? Like Brock Purdy, in a sense, has had his own cross to bear with bailing out this team when they were riding high and nothing could be done. And they move with so much process and purpose. But after a while, Kyle's going to have to be the reason why we pull ourselves out of a hole, not just the reason why we're going to blow a team out today. And I think that's the only confidence that they've ever seen in him when he front runs.
Also, I would argue that this attitude, like his attitude of not taking accountability, it's never his fault because he's inherently the best or one of the best, and he's proven it. So he's above reproach. He's doing a great job no matter what happens, win or lose. And when you question him after a big loss, he looks at you like, "Who do you know who I am? Like, I am universally respected." If I were like, that's his attitude. And I think that's the attitude of key members of this team. Nick Bosa. It's never his fault. He's above the defensive coordinator. Like every week there's a zone read that goes to his side that he doesn't defend. And afterward, he's just, rolling up his sleeves. Yeah, it wasn't my fault. That wasn't my fault. It was not my fault. And I think there's a lot of that on this team, like just passing the buck to someone lower on the totem pole until you're blaming special teams.
Oh, 100%. I don't think that there's ever been like any like full-faced accountability outside of like, hey, this is not working. Not this play, but this whole thing is not working. And we need to change gears. I don't think that Kyle's message is really reaching the new guys. I think it worked for the older guys that actually didn't really know what they knew about football. That's the thing about talking to rookies, man. It's like they don't know what they know, right? So you come in and give them this process of, I know every answer. We're going to show up to the game, and I'm going to tell you exactly who we're going to exploit and how we're going to win this game. And what happens is that you teach these guys how to follow you really well, but they don't know how to win on their own. Right? They don't know how to go out there and just make it happen, where Kyle just calls plays and he's like, hey man, you guys know how to audible out of this stuff. You know what the rules are teaching you that we put you on. Work it, massage it right here on the field. I'm not going to give you every answer. I think Kyle thrives on having every answer because I don't know. Maybe he's a little insecure.
There's a select group of people in this organization that are absolutely above reproach. And I think that doesn't set the right tone. Like Tom Brady was never above reproach in New England. He wanted to be treated like everyone else, but Kyle's above reproach. Bosa's above reproach. Trent Williams is above reproach. I mean,
Kyle
Trent Williams
Juszczyk
gets
is
ejected
above
from a
reproach.
game. Kyle Juszczyk is above reproach. Like if a new coach were to come in and try to set a different culture, I have a feeling he would trim the fat there. He would want younger players who are more accountable as opposed to these older players who are extremely rich and feel like they're above it all.
Well, look at the cachet that this team and this regime has given these players, right? George Kittle's the best tight end in the NFL. Nick Bosa is class personified as the best edge rusher in the NFL, right? Deebo Samuels gets looked at as Weapon X, right? But by themselves, you're waiting on these guys to actually live up to the name, right? Trent Williams, I know this is going to sound sacrilegious, and this is great for clicks. But Trent Williams didn't make All-Pro until he got here. Trent Williams didn't have a first-team All-Pro until he got here. And his leadership was spotty in Washington, even to the point where the 49ers kind of saved his career. He had been out of football for an entire year before the 49ers had came through. And it's rich to me how all of a sudden we've been like conditioned into accepting what we do on the offensive line, for an example, right? But if you look at it, that's not what Kyle inherited. Kyle inherited Joe freaking Staley at left tackle, okay? All right, they went out and got Laken Tomlinson, who was a former first-round pick at guard, okay? They went out and got Mike McGlinchey. Even though he's an imperfect vessel, we know Mike McGlinchey was not good, but they went out and got him in the first round. So all of this stuff that they're doing now when they kind of like move the goalposts and try to act as if we don't value certain things, it's bullshit. It's bullshit because that's not what made you good in the first place, right? And a lot of our standard is what they're eroding at year after year after year, where it's getting fans into believing like, well, what would we do without Kyle Shanahan? Dude, we had one of the best offensive lines in the league before Kyle Shanahan got here. We're one of the toughest teams in the league before Kyle got here. And look at us now. We don't even run inside run during practice. So, I mean, sometimes you just got to understand when, nothing stays the same.
I just don't like the culture that this team has become. And I think, again, Kyle sets the tone and Bosa exemplifies what it is because he's the most unfiltered player on the team. He's the highest paid player on the team. And yesterday in the locker room, first question he got, he's starting to annoy me. He comes out, and he's like this. He's got his rolled up, and he's like messing with his hair. Like he's very concerned about how he looks. It's like, dude, you're just another player on this team who lost last week. Like, why are you trying to look so pretty? So he's doing all this stuff, and question is like, hey, Evan Anderson got called up to the 53-man roster. What do you think of him? He's really made him a lot of his opportunity. He's like, oh, he did? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's good. He's really, it's like, oh, I didn't know. Oh, that's good. And then after the game, he said some boilerplate nice stuff after that, but he had no clue. And then after the game on Sunday, he's sitting there as Ricky Pearsall gives his first press conference as a pro. His first press conference is getting shot, 8 minutes. And he wasn't paying attention. He was on his phone. Someone asked him Bosa about it. And he's like, oh yeah, I wasn't paying attention. Could have lied.
He could have lied.
So to me, like, dude, like, are you even on this team? Like, do you care? Do you know what's going on? One more thing. Someone asked him about Malik Mustafa. And he's like, yeah, I had no idea during the game. But after the game, my dad said he was really flying around. It's like, you're on the field and you don't know what's happening behind you? Are you only concerned with what you're doing? I don't understand that, dude. But I don't understand that.
I can tell you. I can help you out. Kyle, after the loss, I believe it was the post-game press conference or the press conference when they had right before they started practice this week. There was a question to Kyle that asked him about picking up the blitz, right? Like clearly saying to Kyle, like, hey man, what have you seen when you guys are trying to pick up blitzes with your offensive line? Is there anything that you guys want to work on? And instead of Kyle just understanding what the reporter was alluding to. What did he do? He got in the weeds. Well, what do you mean by picking up Blitz?
That was yesterday. And that was Jake Hutchinson of KMBR. And there's partners with the 49ers. They're the official.
I'm so glad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so glad you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it was such a weird response from Kyle, where it's like, dude, you know what he's asking you. What is wrong with you? Like, so what are you about to do? Are you really about to break out the grease board and try to go toe for toe with a reporter, bro?
Jake,
come on, bro. He's asking you to highlight what we clearly see. Now, if you want him to get more specific, he could have said, hey, Kyle, your offensive line is ass. They can't stop the blitz. Brock Purdy's getting killed, and you look stupid as hell on the sideline.
And JT O'Sullivan's making fun of you on his channel weekly.
And there's people all over the place talking about how not only do you leave your quarterback out to dry, but your offense isn't sound, okay? You're a car with 3 wheels. It ain't sound. So would you have rather said that, Kyle?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, don't punch down. That really rubs me the wrong way, bro. It like, you don't have to answer people that way.
Yeah, I agree. You shouldn't talk to anyone like that. Okay, last topic. The Niners sit at 3-4. Let's do some math. For them to finish the season 10-7, they would have to finish the season 7-3.
Mm-hmm.
They're currently 3-4. So looking at their schedule, 3 more losses. If they have a 4th loss, they might make the playoffs. They might not. 10 might do it, probably would do it. So they got 3 games left against the NFC North. Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago. Not in that order. They have a game against the Bills, and they have a game against the Rams and the Cardinals. 2 teams have already beaten them. What do you think the Niners and the Bucks and the Seahawks, who have a better record than them, although I never take the Seahawks seriously. What do you think the Niners odds, how likely is it that they'll finish the season with 10 wins?
All right, so we're losing to Detroit, we're losing to Green Bay, and we're losing to the Bills.
That's 3 right there. If those are the only games they lose, they finish with 10 wins.
That means that, all right, Cowboys, that's a win. The Bucks are an easy get now that they've had injuries. Seattle, I don't know. The Rams could be very healthy by week 15. The Dolphins are DOA, but Tua might be back by then.
And the Cardinals beat the Niners. They just beat the Chargers. They're not.
And that's a sneaky ass game. It's almost kind of like right when you lose to Detroit, your work ain't done. You still got to win the rest. You got to win.
You see, the Niners are never going to be able to contain Kyler Murray. They're always going to get worn down by James Conner. There's certain things about that team, even though they're not that talented at all. They're a well-coached team.
Yeah, and it depends on how healthy we are when we see them at this stage of the game. Injuries don't stop for anybody.
Now maybe Christian McCaffrey comes back after the bye week and they just go on a run and never lose again. But I don't know. I don't see that happening.
Well, they're officially week to week. I said this earlier in the show. They're week to week with me. I feel like the forecasting, they don't even deserve forecasting anymore with what they've shown us. You forecast on teams that you think can have easy wins, but we haven't beaten any good teams. We have not beat one good team this year.
Not one. So this is my question for you. What's more likely, a 10-win season or an 8-win season?
8-win season.
I'd have to agree.
Yeah.
This doesn't look like a team that's going to win 7 of 10.
Nah, they haven't played a complete football game all season. So
have they won 2 games in a row yet?
They haven't won back-to-back games all season.
Can you win 7 out of 10 without winning 2 games in a row? I don't think so.
I don't think you can.
I'm not great at math, but I don't think you can. I think at a certain point you got to win a couple games in a row. Maybe they will now. Maybe it's Dallas, Tampa, Seattle, the next 3. But I want to say, we've been talking about, we've been comparing this team to the 2014 Niners team all year because if this is the end of the Shanahan era, we know what the end of the Harbaugh era looked like. That team went 8-8. They missed the playoffs. They were 7-4 at one point. So we'll see how tough the Niners are. They could be 6-4 in 4 weeks, counting the bye. But it's going to be a gauntlet. 3 games against the NFC North and the Bills.
And there's blood in the water too.
Losses.
There's blood in the water. Teams know that we need these wins. So we're going to get our best. We're going to get our best crack at every team that plays us. They're trying to.
And Teams know this team isn't a bully anymore. Like this is that now is when you want to face the 49ers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Teams know. Teams want to be that guy. They want to be that team to say that we're the ones that sent them home packing. We're the team that ended it, right? We're the last straw that basically sent these fools packing this year. So
wouldn't it be so funny if it was Dallas after everything the Niners have done to that team the last 4 or 5 years?
I mean, well, that's why. Look, bro, I get it. The whole F Dallas, but that's why you don't do the stuff that there's a lot of stuff that they've been doing over the years where they haven't won with class. They just haven't, bro. And like the Dallas shirts, George Kittle in the end zone, Kyle pulling players early in games, like embarrassing. Like, bro, these guys, they need to show and prove. And like I said, they don't have an identity. That running football team stuff is out the window. They got to figure out how to win a football game without Kyle's play sheet. They got to.
And you know what makes it tough to win a football game? When you have the worst special teams. If you're consistently getting outplayed, maybe by a lot in one phase of the game, a lot of times they say you just got to win 2. So unless you're winning both sides of the ball, which the Niners aren't consistently doing, you're going to lose because something's going to happen on special teams that's going to sink the game. And all I know is that the Niners have the worst special team and the Cowboys have one of the best. So if the Niners like give up a touchdown or a turnover on special teams, they could absolutely lose to Dallas too.
And Dallas got top 5 special teams in the league.
And wouldn't that be so funny if the demise of the Kyle Shanahan era came down to special teams?
You know what it would be? It would be manna from heaven. It'd be poignant. It would be exactly how he should go.
It'd be another detail he freaking overlooked.
Come on, bro. Why don't we have Patrick Mahomes? Because Kyle didn't think it was worth looking and scouting Patrick Mahomes because he wanted Kirk Cousins for so long. And where is Kirk? Nowhere near the 49ers than he's ever been, right? He
didn't know the rules in overtime. Just a detail. Just a minor detail. Bro.
Us falling apart because of special teams would be so Kyle. It would be Kyle.
You could argue that one of the
coordinator, bro.
biggest blunders in the Super Bowl was the muff punt.
Coordinators don't care about special teams, right? They're like, man, what do I have to? I don't care about special teams. Like, dude,
I just don't want to think about it, bro. I mean, the muff punt and then the missed extra point, like, right? The
missed extra point and the muff point
field goal at the end to put it to overtime because it was a 3-point game instead of a 4-point game.
And he missed it. He muffed the onside kick, and then we missed the extra point. We're on our 3rd kicker this year because we can't stay inside of our lanes and keep the kicker upright. So,
and to me, that's the mark of a coach who's on the way out of town, doesn't have the details down. Special teams is an issue again. It's been an issue. What are you talking about? That's why you drafted Jake Moody in the 3rd round and Mitch Wisnowski in the 4th round because you're trying. But Brian Schneider, my God. All I know is that Andy Reid has the best special teams coordinator. John Harbaugh was a special teams coordinator, and the Niners are never going to beat those teams. Never.
They care about the little things.
Ever.
It's the details. It's the small things, man.
That's football. I never played it.
Yeah.
Would have been fun, though. I would have
loved you as a player, bro. You'd have probably played receiver. You'd have played receiver. You're tall.
Absolutely not. Not after watching what happened to Brandon Ayuk.
People know that you're like, what are you, like 6'1", Grant?
Yeah, I'm 6'1". But I don't want to. I would never want to get hit like Brandon Ayuk got hit. No way, dude. I'm playing baseball, running track.
But if you played football,
I guess I'd have to play wide receiver, but I wouldn't go over the middle. Like, sorry, I don't do that. No.
You would be a good punter, though. Just your personality fits as a punter. Hey guys, sweat a little bit. Don't mind if I get this punt off, do you? Like, yeah, hurry up, Grant.
Okay. Corey Soto says, no, we got you. Paul Newland says accountability breeds responsibility. Kyle, Killa the Juice Man, who is related to OJ the Juice Man, says, what up, Grant Coach? Which player drafted from this regime you thought would ball out but didn't work out on the field? Mine was Huff. Thought he would be all pro for years. He might be all pro again. He's been hurt.
I mean, I just think the first iteration of Debo, Jalen Hurd. If Jalen Hurd would have been healthy, we'd have never seen Debo. Jalen Hurd had everything. He could run. He's a good receiver. He just couldn't stay healthy.
I thought Joe Williams was going to be the next great running back in the NFL, and he never played for the 49ers. So that would be one. And then Trey, I thought Trey was going to be the guy who took him over the top, and he never got an opportunity. And maybe if he did, he wouldn't have. I don't know. I still feel like I wasn't wrong about him, but I probably was. The Ryan G. Hensley Show says, important question for you guys. Who is your favorite Ryan of all time?
Ryan Seacrest.
Ryan Gosling. D'Amico Ryans.
D'Amico Ryans. That's a cool Ryan. That's
Rex
Meg
Ryan.
Meg
Ryan now or Meg Ryan in 1994?
Come on, 9-4 Meggie.
Are we talking Sleepless in Seattle Meg Ryan, or You've Got Mail Meg Ryan?
You've Got Mail Meg Ryan.
What else was Meg Ryan in? What was that one with Billy Crystal?
It's Billy Crystal, City Slickers?
No.
Billy Crystal's my guy.
My mom loved Meg Ryan.
She was in America's Sweetheart.
Okay. All right. Also, Ryan G. Hensley is one of the best Ryans.
Ryan G. Hensley is also another. I think we kind of missed the point.
All right, that's the show. Thanks for watching. It's been the coaches meeting. The Niners, if they win this weekend, it's because we helped them. And if they lose this weekend, they'll have hell to pay here on the coaches meeting next week. Thank you for watching, Coach. Great stuff.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds. He's kind of like a knockoff Chevy Chase, though, but he is a Ryan.